Greetings everyone! As with my previous Bliss video, which I had created and released back during the initial premiere of the first Bliss special, I've decided to go ahead and make a quick video discussing my overall thoughts after watching the 22-minute premiere of the recent Powerpuff Girls reboot special, Never Been Blissed, since I'm sure many of you are curious to know what all I think. I normally don't do this when new episodes of the reboot premiere, as most of you already know, but I figured that since this is technically considered a special of sorts, it wouldn't really hurt anything. Just let it be known that this does not represent my review of Never Been Blissed as a whole, for that will be an entirely separate video altogether. These are just my first impressions of the episode after one viewing. I will be spoiling this episode clean, so if you want to see it for yourself first, I'd recommend watching the special before continuing forward. As for now, I don't want to stall any further, so I'm just gonna get right into it. Let's roll. So Never Been Blissed basically does exactly what I imagined it would in bringing Bliss back. At the end of the Power of 4, Bliss was seen flying into outer space to realign Saturn back into its orbit after him had sent it hurtling towards Earth. In this special, she is essentially brought back after spending her time flying across the galaxy because a meteor she was chasing recently landed at their nearby school. This episode features her returning to Townsville because a menacing shape-shifting space alien, known as the Spore, had landed in town and Bliss needs to hunt it down before it takes over and destroys Earth. This leads her, along with the Powerpuff Girls as well as the professor, who just got a job as a substitute teacher, to all head to the school and look for any suspicious activity. The special then branches off to follow each of these characters engaging in their own various subplots, separating and reconnecting back with each other at various points throughout the episode. In the case of the girls themselves, Blossom is introduced at the beginning of the episode to be making these special kind of cookies, made entirely out of soy mash and chocolate chip flavored soy mash, both of which are not tasty at all in the slightest. She goes around for the majority of the episode giving all of the students free handouts, although most people don't seem to like them at all because of how repulsive they are, and I have to agree. No one should tamper with chocolate chip goodness by replacing it with soy. That's just despicable. She, along with Buttercup and Bubbles, split up from Bliss when they arrive at school and begin to question a lot of the students so that they can find out if any of them are secretly the Spore in disguise. What I love most of all about this segment is how Blossom nearly kills Jared with her baking.
Alien says what?
What?
Jared, if you're not an alien, then you'll eat my cookies and tell me you love me. I mean them.
Okay. Yummers.
Good. Suffer. Know your place.
Nah, I kid. But in all reality, I found Bubbles' savage little jump attack on Big Joey to be funnier than it should be because of how vicious she looks as she tries to take him down while wearing this dinky little alien antenna on her head. It's just so scarily adorable. Meanwhile, Bliss is seen going around the school looking for the Spore as well, only to gather attention from the other students and earn herself a reputation amongst them. She then runs into this other boy named Logan, who claims he's a member of the Universal Protection Bureau, an intergalactic organization set on keeping the galaxy safe from threat. It's shown that this character's full name is actually Logan, which, I'm not gonna lie, isn't nearly as hilariously bad as the way it's done in the Mario movie.
How many Marios are there between the two of you?
There's three. It's Mario and Luigi Mario.
When the premise of this episode was first announced, it described events in which Bliss would be hunting down this evil space alien, while simultaneously running into this other student named Logan, who she develops a crush for. The episode has no shame in showing just how far Bliss is willing to go with this guy she just met, even having several scenes in which it's implied that the two of them are going to kiss, only to have them blocked by the school's janitor who yells at them to get out of his way. Considering that the first time a love interest was done in this show, it didn't go so well, so I wasn't fond of hearing this was going to happen again. Luckily this time it's not nearly as egregious, but still, it's pretty poorly done. When I first saw this premise announced online, I immediately went to my social media accounts on Twitter and Tumblr stating what I thought, and now that this episode has premiered, I just have to say,
called it.
Logan was the space alien the whole time, as if the wording of this premise right here wasn't obvious enough. I said it in my news video on Cartoon Network's 2018 plans. I said it when I posted about this premise on Twitter. We all saw this coming a mile away. I have to say that it is a little annoying that the premise would just give things like this away, even if it is just the Powerpuff Girls reboot. The way it's worded here simultaneously introduces this new boy character that we've never heard of before, and states that Bliss develops a crush on him, while in the same exact paragraph establishes that she's hunting down a shape-shifting alien. Specifically shape-shifting. Obviously, anyone with common sense is going to put 2 and 2 together and figure out that Logan is the sport. The premise should not tell us both of these details. Choose one or the other. And better yet, don't mention that the alien can shapeshift at all. I feel as though I watched the episode before I actually saw it simply because I read the premise. This is like the Batman vs Superman trailer revealing that Doomsday was the final villain at the end. You shouldn't ruin the movie or episode before it comes out. I feel that the episode still makes it fairly obvious that Logan is the space alien without even reading the press release, however, and I think it wouldn't have been nearly as in your face about it if the alien were never mentioned to be able to shapeshift to begin with, and if Logan didn't have such a ridiculous full name. At one point, the student known as Jennifer goes crazy in the lunchroom, just devouring Blossom's cookies to the point where she completely morphs into a space alien and attacks the girls head on. They, along with Logan and Bliss, manage to take it down, and the first half of Never Been Blissed ends off with it leading us to believe that they got the sport and saved the day. I would have found this to be more believable if Logan had not been introduced at all, and instead been replaced by another background character that already existed in the show. The surprise that Logan is the sport isn't hidden from us at all, because he isn't an already established character, and as a result, I find this whole episode to just fall flat. The professor also has his own side plot about being cool with the kids, but it's also the most painful part of the episode, and it isn't doing his character any services whatsoever, so I'll just say that his behavior is as out of place as any other typical professor episode, and that's all you really need to know. He goes around wearing this full-on leather suit and wearing a backwards hat and spewing out coolish sounding lingo without it actually sounding cool. And I know I've made this comparison several times before, but Powerpuff from the original did it a million times better. I will give the episode credit, though. This one gag where the professor is jamming out in his car while the girls fight the first sport alien disguised as Jennifer was probably my favorite gag in the entire episode. The second half takes place at the school dance, in which Bliss and Logan go together as a couple while Blossom, Bubbles, and Buttercup have their own separate duties for the occasion. Blossom is selling her cookies as planned, to which more of the students are just eating them all up, wink wink nudge nudge, while Buttercup acts as the bouncer and Bubbles is on trash duty. The episode hints that any of the characters that are eating the cookies are infected by the spore because, as Buttercup states, and as seen by Jennifer earlier, no real human would actually enjoy eating those things. In fact, they actually serve as the energy source for the spore's infections to grow stronger because the soy is what gives them more power. I think this little detail is actually the most clever aspect of the episode, and the way Blossom indirectly allows the villain to grow stronger when in reality she just wanted people to like her baking. Blossom's feelings are crushed by this, but let's be honest, she can't just mess with the chocolate chip cookie recipe and expect to get away with it. The episode all comes together in the climax when Logan gives Bliss this heart-shaped locket and a necklace and sings her a song on stage while playing his guitar. Towards the end of the song, he proceeds to weaken her with his guitar, which turned out to be a suppressor of sorts linked to Bliss's locket, and reveals that he was the spore the whole time. He proceeds to reveal that he had taken over all of the other students in the school and sends them into battle against the girls while taking Bliss down by himself. I think that the fight is simple enough, but the impacts are still censored so no physical contact is made, and the girls go down in one hit from the spore spitting green slime at them, so it could have been better, but it still beats out most of the action in Season 1. He also explains how he was tracking Bliss down and used the Logan disguise to lure her into a false sense of security, during which these stills of Bliss destroying his eggs are displayed on screen as a way of showing her past encounters with the spore, which I have to say, are actually really cool looking, and the way the darks make Bliss look like she's the bad guy from the sport's perspective. It's a nice touch, along with the other artistic details, and I applaud the episode for making use of these. My only true issue with this final battle is that Bliss manages to use her telekinesis to pull the sport's guitar in front of her when he's about to crush her with his tail. Since she's technically supposed to be weakened with the necklace, but I guess she wasn't fully weakened, only partially. I'll give it a pass though, since it makes up for it with this correction gag right here.
Can it, Sword? I mean, technically, that's a jar.
I truly believe that this show needs more self-aware jokes like this. I think I'd like it more if it did. Never Been Bliss then ends off with Bliss joining the Universal Protection Bureau and heading back off into space once again. She's pretty much just going to be living up in space doing her own thing for the remainder of this show's run, however long that may be. So that was most of the episode in a nutshell. Obviously, I didn't go into as much detail as I normally would because these were just my quick initial thoughts on the Never Been Bliss special and not a full-on review. I'll have more to add and critique when I come back to this episode in the future, seeing as I'll have more of Season 2 under my belt as well as more viewings of the episode to go off of. If I can be completely honest, this episode isn't the worst thing in the world, but compared to the other Bliss special, I'm not sure if I could say it's much of an improvement. In some ways it's better, and in some ways it's worse, but overall, it just feels underwhelming. It certainly doesn't help that the promotions and advertisements for this one weren't nearly as prominent as The Power of 4, so it wouldn't surprise me if Cartoon Network is seeing Bliss as a failure in some sense now too. Of course, those are only my predictions and I could be entirely wrong, but this special wasn't given nearly as much attention as Bliss was the first time around. I guess my final question for the reboot is, what's next? Is it over? Is this the end of the reboot's grand ideas that don't turn out well at all and the show's just going to die after this? Or is another controversial decision that will cause people to be up in arms about the show again lurking right around the corner? I guess we'll just have to wait and see as the remaining episodes of this series continue to unfold. But that's all I have to say on the matter for now. Till next time, Shadowstreak, signing off.